Welcome to the final episode of A Conversation with Father Orsi. Final episode of 2023, at least. I'm VC Cloutier, President of Action for Life, and this is Father Michael Orsi. Father?
Well, I thought you were going to say we were canceled.
Well, Father, the ratings came in, and we got a -2. Nobody's watching, and 2 people complained.
I think I know who those people are. Scoundrels. Hey, really, folks, you want to complain, send BC some letters because I'll get a big kick out of them,
Well,
Don't send me any letters. I don't answer them.
I'll tell you what, Father, we, as always, are praying for peace and prosperity in 2024. But it's our prayers are needed. Let's say that. There is so much conflict in the world, and it's such a scary time. I don't know what to say about that. I truly don't. But I can tell you a couple of things that will scare all of you. One is that tensions are high among all voters. We know that. There's a national survey that was out in September conducted by the Public Religion Research Institute, which, by the way, is a nonpartisan organization in partnership with the Brookings Institution.
Who are partial.
To
the left.
Researchers found that an overwhelming majority of Americans believe democracy is at risk in the coming presidential election. Mm-hmm. Here's the scarier thing. About a quarter of those surveyed think American patriots may have to resort to violence to save the country. Now, that's a scary statement in and of itself. What's even scarier is that statement is true of a majority of Democrat, Republican, and independent voters. Mm-hmm. And that's up from 15% in 2021. So we're not headed in the right direction, Father, going into 2024.
No. I'd like to say, don't worry about it. I can't say, don't worry about it.
That ship has sailed. It's time to worry.
Yeah, it's time to worry. And where I see the problems existing are, first of all, there is a great mistrust of some institutions that we have always been able to trust in America. And as a matter of fact, these institutions have become somewhat subversive to America. And it seems that there is an attempt to undermine our democracy. Almost an overthrow of the government, if not a violent overthrow. I don't think we're there yet. I mean, you hear all this stuff about January 6th, the insurrection. Hey, folks, that was not an insurrection. I mean, let's say
it was a party that got out of hand.
Yeah, it got out of hand. You had a couple of screwballs. I mean, you had that poor guy with the horns on his head. And,
who thought he was going in an NFL game?
Yeah, he didn't know where he was. I mean, it was not nice. I mean, certainly you don't want that to happen, but it was not an insurrection. Insurrections don't happen like that overnight, like a flash mob. There's no such thing as a flash mob either. They're planned. Okay, and it takes a tremendous amount of time and thought into planning a revolution or an insurrection. And the planning has been going on for quite some time in our society, maybe for the last 50, 60, even 70 years, where our society institutions that we trusted to keep us informed, to keep us thinking straight about who we are as Americans, have gradually been overtaken by people who do not love democracy and who do not love America, think that America is bad and that it needs fundamental change, a fundamental change in America. Now, what is fundamental to America is what? It's the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. That is fundamental to America. And of course, when I say Constitution, I also include the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. Even that is being challenged in perhaps some very, very devious ways. And where is it being challenged? It's being challenged, first of all, in our schools. All right. And we're talking about at the moment, even the grammar schools, critical race theory, and that's being taught in the grammar schools. No great love for America. Remember when we went to school, and I don't know if they're doing this anymore, in the public schools, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely.
And we learned the Star-Spangled Banner. I mean, those things are important to show love for America. And we also were taught that America is the greatest country in the whole world. Now, I think that was true. I think it is still true, but a lot of people do not believe it anymore. And as we prescind, move away from the foundational documents, and we begin to distort American history and remove all of those things that reminded us of our history, well, removing statues, removing paintings, changing names, we begin to lose what America is and what America has potential of being. Not all of our history is wonderful. I mean, we've made mistakes, okay?
That's
Slavery
human
was
nature.
it was a big mistake. Slavery was a big mistake. Is it the best they could do at the time? I suppose they had better brains than me as to what took place in 1776 and 1789, okay? So schools are undermining our culture, undermining our government. I firmly believe that, folks. Be careful with the schools. If your kid is coming home thinking America's bad, get the kid out of that school. But it's happening, BC, as you know, even on the university campuses.
It's worse there because they're telling the kids what to think rather than teaching them how to think.
Right, right. And so you're bringing professors in there that are Marxist. They're Marxist. And they are infecting our young people with Marxist ideas. You know, I've been nauseated over the last months with people who support Hamas and are chasing Jewish people off the streets. And in New York, in Cooper Union, great school, well, it used to be anyway, great school, Jews were chased into the library and had to lock the door.
That's unbelievable. This is America.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, America is that this is a democracy, that everybody has a voice in America. It makes no difference, you know, your color, your creed, you're an American. But you have to understand that a lot of people don't know what America is or what America stands for anymore. And if you can allow that to happen, if you see that this is part of education now and that these young people are not respectful of one another, American democracy is in danger. What's the next step? What is the next step after that? Killing each other?
Well, I mean, we kill babies in abortion.
Yeah, we do.
So how far are we from saying, well, she was old, and so I just thought I'd kill her?
Yeah,
And
we're there.
And there will be someone who will try to get a constitutional amendment passed that would allow us to kill old people.
Sure. So democracy, yeah, BC, it is in danger. It's the schools, it's the media.
What I observe,
The media,
oh, no doubt about it.
I mean, it's so slanted.
The media is bought and paid for.
Yeah, it's the narrative now. And of course, it's a very left-wing narrative. So yeah, those institutions that we once trusted, can't trust them anymore.
What I see, Father, that I think is different is when I was a kid, there were immigrants. And there still are. But the immigrant kids that I grew up with couldn't wait to speak English. In fact, in a lot of instances, their parents wanted them to speak their native language, and they didn't want to do that. They said, I'm American.
Right.
I want to speak English. Frankly, I'm one of them. My relatives would speak to me in French, and I would answer them in English.
Right.
And I remember an aunt of mine saying, why don't you answer me in French? And I said, because I'm American, I speak English. Yeah. Now we have a whole new group of immigrants who come to America and want to impose their values and their culture on America.
Right, right.
And that in and of itself causes a lot of conflict.
Because these new immigrants coming in do not have an idea of what democracy is all about. They're coming here, you know, allegedly, and I believe this is true, they want a better way of life.
Sure.
Okay? But there are some that are coming here because they want to foment insurrection here. And they have not been socialized properly into America or enculturated into what a democracy is. And they don't want to be. Folks, let's be honest with this. They don't want to become Americans. In the past, we had quotas. My father came in on a quota in 1936 from Italy. and only a certain number of Southern Italians could come in. All right, and when he came here, he loved America. He wanted to be an American, and the first thing he wanted to do was to learn the language. He learned the language. Then he gets drafted, and he claims that that was the best time in his whole life. They made him a citizen right away, and he just loved the whole thing. And his great memory of his whole life was that President Roosevelt was going through, I don't know, Iowa. He was stationed in Iowa, and because he was taking care of the Italian prisoners of war.
Okay.
He was the interpreter. The Italians didn't want to be in the war anyway, so they had a great time, you know.
Especially in Iowa.
I don't know. So my father played the clarinet, and Roosevelt's train came through. The president comes out in the caboose. My father played the clarinet for Franklin Roosevelt.
Wow.
And to him, that was the high point of his whole life. Put out the American flag every day of his life till the day he died. That flag was outside of our house, right? People wanted to become Americans. They were. We had numbers that they could accommodate these many people. We could accommodate them in our schools. We could enculturate them, and we knew also who was here and who wasn't here.
Right.
Right now, we have open borders, South and North. People are coming in not just from South America, but they're coming in from the Middle East too. And believe me, folks, there's a different concept over there of government, what government should do and what government shouldn't do. So we have people now that we don't even know who they are. Our infrastructure can't handle them. The schools can't teach them. There are so many languages being spoken. And I was speaking with a public school guidance counselor recently, said, we don't know what to do with them. We can't even speak their language. So how do you
teach them?
How do you teach them? And what does it mean then to be an American? And what does it mean to have a democracy and to respect the laws of the country that you are in? Folks, this is an unmitigated disaster, this influx of immigrants who are being brought to this country illegally. They're being brought in by coyotes. They're being brought in by people who are organized crime. That's just what it's organized crime bringing these people.
That leads to human trafficking and particularly sex trafficking.
Yep.
Because a lot of those people have no choice. They're ensnared,
Right.
and they come across the border thinking that they finally got a break, and then they realize that they are indebted to
Right.
some pimp.
Right. And, you know, these people oftentimes, especially the ones from South America, Central America, they're paying
Right.
to get here. They're paying some organization to bring them here. And then they owe them money. Some of them can't afford to pay the whole freight. And they have to work for them. And so a lot of them get involved in the sex trade. We have, I don't know how many thousands of children, about 80,000 children, unaccompanied minors,
Right.
that are here in the United States, and we can't account for them. We don't know where they are.
They're allegedly in foster care, but they don't really know where.
Yeah. So what's happened to our country? What's happened to our democracy? How are these people down the road? First of all, they are here illegally. Secondly, they are not enculturated properly. And thirdly, how much danger are we in? Could there be, and there are, cells in this country of revolutionaries?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just the statistic will tell you that for every 100 good people, there's got to be one or two bad ones
Sure.
that slip through.
Sure. And these are people that are young men, mostly young men. Look, we got enough young men that get in trouble. I mean, we're bringing them in from other places too that have a different philosophy than we have, a way of life, a different theology that's contrary to America and the foundations of our American system. Folks, democracy is in trouble. You cannot have a democracy unless people believe in democracy. Remember old Ben Franklin, Mr. Franklin, what kind of government do we have? And he says, a republic if you can keep it. Well, he was right. We're losing it right now. You know where it's going, BC? It's going toward a one world government. I believe that's what the elites want. They just have people being pumped into the United States and different Western countries. And it's a borderless, there is no border.
Right.
And you have the elites directing how people should think and how people should act.
Like the Politburo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, a different name, but similar operating philosophy,
Right.
where the elites decide what is good for everyone and everyone else doesn't have a voice.
Right.
We'll be back right after this. Action for Life is proud to sponsor A Conversation with Father Orsi. Action for Life is an all-volunteer, pro-life, interfaith ministry that's focused on the sanctity of life from conception to natural death. In addition to sponsoring this TV program, Action for Life provides financial support and life assistance to any woman who wishes to carry her baby to term in anticipation of an adoption. Action for Life also provides financial assistance to a variety of pro-life organizations, including maternity homes, pregnancy resource centers, anti-human trafficking agencies, and sidewalk advocates, but to name a few. Please consider making a donation so that we can continue in the fight to save preborn babies. You can donate online at actionforlife.org. Thank you and God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hear a lot today about society redistributing the goods of the people who work for those goods. We are called to work. Jesus was a worker himself. He was a carpenter. The apostles, they worked. They were fishermen. They never thought of themselves as being entitled to anything. As a matter of fact, St. Paul says, I'm a tent maker. I'm not going to impose on anybody. I'm going to work with my own hands. And a lot of people have forgotten that today. We are called to work, to use our natural gifts, to use our talents, to use our minds, and sometimes to use our backs to do the work that is going to provide a living for us and for our families. When we don't work, we diminish ourselves. There's no sense of satisfaction, accomplishment, no sense that we have put our time, our effort, and our sweat into providing for ourselves and for our families. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's think about what that means. It doesn't just simply mean taking a salary. It means providing for ourselves, providing for our families, and thanking Almighty God for all the good things He has given us, and asking us to co-create with Him with the goods of the earth, and to use our minds to make something wonderful for ourselves, for our family, and for our country. Hey gang, I know a lot of you sometimes can't watch all of our episodes of Action for Life. However, we have a solution for that. All you have to do is go to YouTube and search for Action for Life Florida. And you can catch up on all the shows, and guess what? Extra added bonus, you get to hear my weekly homily. So, YouTube and you make a fine couple.
Welcome back to A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm B.C. Cloutier. Father, it's interesting to think that tomorrow is 2024, and that is the next presidential election year.
Right.
Still a lot of craziness going on in both parties,
Right.
And outside of the parties, I guess, if you include RFK and a couple of other lunatics. But we've got the man from Minnesota, Dean.
Wells? What's his name?
Is that what it is?
I don't know what his name is.
Well,
he's a great candidate, folks, wherever he is.
We should, who's challenging Joe Biden. That's an interesting turn of events. And then we still have a whole bunch of people who want to be the Republican nominee,
Right.
none of whom can seem to get close to Donald Trump. What do you see in the cards?
Well, first of all, I think that Donald Trump will be Republican.
Certainly
candidate.
appears that way.
Yeah. And he brings a certain number of voters with him, no matter what. Like he said one day, I could murder somebody in
On Fifth Avenue.
Fifth Avenue and I'd get away with it. So the fact of the matter is, there are a large number of Trump voters automatically. He pulled in 75 million votes last time,
Right.
which is the most any sitting president has ever had. That's a lot of votes. And I believe most of those people will go back to him. I think the question then is who will be his vice president. And I think at this point, it looks like Nikki Haley. That's who I would
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think she would be a great choice.
Yeah, I think so too. She has executive experience. She was a governor. She worked at the UN. She has foreign experience credentials. She's pro-life. She's balanced. And I think that would be a very, very good choice for him to make. Right? That's how I see it right now.
And in the event, I mean, age is an issue with both Trump and Biden. And in the event of Trump's demise, we would have a vice president who is capable of stepping into the role and performing well.
Right.
I can't say that for the Democrat Party.
No. And now that becomes a real question. Is Biden going to continue as the Democrat presidential candidate? And from what I see, it doesn't look like he's capable of going on for another 5 years.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So really what this election is about is, folks, quite honestly, if the ticket stays the way it is, it's about electing Kamala Harris. He's not going to make it physically or intellectually, mentally, for five more years. So that's the choice that people have to make if the ticket remains that way. There's always the possibility that something could happen, that Biden would say, I'm not up to it, and the party would have another problem. What do you do with Kamala?
Right.
I think what could happen is that Kamala could be encouraged to step down. The party would have to encourage her, but she's salivating for the job. I mean, first woman, black woman president. But if they can convince her that she shouldn't run, I think that Gavin Newsom is waiting in the wings to take the job.
Sure seems that way. He was just over in China visiting with President Xi.
Right. So I think that's what it looks like at the moment. Right now, the polls have Trump leading Biden. It should be a no-brainer if we're talking about the Democrat ticket as it is right now. I think the key is that somehow Kamala has to be encouraged not to run. Wasn't it with the vice president under Franklin Roosevelt? Was it Alvin Barkley? Was it? And he got rid of Alvin Barkley and put in Harry Truman.
Truman, right.
And they had some way to remove, I think it was Alvin Barkley, folks, we're going to check this out for you, to get him off the ticket and put Harry Truman in. So it's doable, but the Democrat Party has to want to do it without offending their constituency, which is
particularly the
identity
far left.
Politics.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, we go back to Nikki Haley. I think if you add Nikki Haley to Trump, that ticket, then that really increases the lead.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, she's a good candidate.
Now, I think Tim Scott is too, but I think she's better.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, as I said, she has a tremendous amount of experience. She ran a good state with North Carolina. Which North Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. She ran a good state. She did a great job at the UN, and she's never had any really great conflicts with Trump. I mean, he didn't go after her either.
And one of the few that he didn't. Now, we love our governor, and he's a good guy, and he's done a great job, but he's not a retail politician.
No, and as you know, I had the privilege of meeting a couple of times with Governor DeSantis, and his policies are fantastic. I mean, you put him up there on stage, and this guy is good. He runs a good state. I think it's the best state in the country. He's done a fantastic job. He doesn't seem to have caught on with the voters, and maybe it's that pizzazz or personality. Because I've been in his presence, and as I said, he's a gracious guy, and smart. And if I could, folks, let me be honest. If I could just pick up Governor DeSantis and put him in the White House, I'd do it. Let me be honest with you, because that's how good he is.
He is. He's great. He's a great administrator, and he's a genuine good human being.
Yeah. And on the other hand, I was also in President Trump's company, and I didn't have the one-on-one that I did with the governor, but you see Trump like, from here to the back wall of the studio, and there's magic, there's pizzazz, there's excitement. I mean, it's just like charisma all over the place, and it goes a long way.
Right.
It goes a long way.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, and on the other hand, is when people see the current president, I mean, there's no pizzazz about that at all. And you're waiting for him to come out of the basement again. Did I win yet?
Good one. Hey, we've only got a couple of minutes left, Father, and it's the last day of the year. What are your thoughts, your final thoughts?
Well, my final thoughts are that this is
for this program, not forever.
Not forever. Oh, I hope not. God, just a few more. Final thoughts are this is a very special year. It's an election year. A lot of people say that, our future depends on the election in 2024. I am a little bit pessimistic as to how much of the future depends on 2024. I think that, the way the country is right now, and we talked earlier about the large number of unassimilated immigrants that are coming into the country, there is a real danger that democracy is not going to prevail in America. What I have to say, too, though, is this, that even if we have a very strong president, the deep state is very deep.
Yeah.
And how do you run a country when your people are not on the same page? During World War II, everybody was on the same page. You could be Republican, Democrat, socialist, liberal, whatever you wanted to be. Everybody was waving an American flag and supported the president. That's my president. There used to be, I would hear my uncles sometimes, they were in World War II. My president, right or wrong. That's my president. I love my president. You don't hear that anymore. And what you do have to worry about now in this country is a big divide. You have actually an intellectual, a moral civil war going on in this country. Does it come to, the Hatfields and McCoys shooting at each other? I don't know about that, but it's possible. But what is not impossible is that people just begin to drift away, and you do have a totally different country in the blue states and a totally different country in the red states, and never the twain shall meet.
We're getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
I hope you all have a happy new year. Thank you so much for joining us this week and every week. We'll be here next week, same time, same place. Until then, happy new year and God bless.